بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله. We continue reading from Imam Al-Ghazali's Jawahir al-Quran with the Jews of the Quran and Spares, and we continue reading from Surah Al-Shu'ara. Again, Imam Ghazali's selection is the very last part of this surah, though it is full with messages that we can, inshallah, read and ponder, contemplate, discuss the meaning of these verses. We have been reading the story of Sayyidina Musa alayhi salam. After a very brief introduction in the sense of the verses that address Sayyidina Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and the first story thereafter, that with the stories of the prophets are intended also to strengthen the resolve of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. We said before that the major story in the Quran is that of Sayyidina Musa alayhi salam. Seems that he's the prototype prophet, 136 verses by name and many others. Because once the name is mentioned, sometimes there are several verses there as a context, still addressing Prophet Musa alayhi salam. Again, his basic life is that he was born, Sayyidina Musa salam, at a time when the Pharaoh used to kill the children of the babies, the baby boys, among the newly born amongst the children of Israel. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala inspired his mother to put him in a wooden box, and so that he could float in the water. And he ended up being picked up by the family of the Prophet, the family of the Pharaoh, and the wife of the Pharaoh. It seems that she had no children, and she thought of Sayyidina Musa salam raising him as a child. And he did not accept to be breastfed. This is the divine decree. He did not accept the breastfeeding of any woman, and his sister, without them being fully aware of, she kept tracking him, and she suggested a woman to breastfeed him. It's his mother, but he was practically raised in the house of the Pharaoh, and one day, as a strong man, there was a problem between an Egyptian and one of the Israelites, and Sayyidina Musa alayhi salam hit the Egyptian. One blow, he killed him. Obviously, it seems that the intention was not to kill. It was an accident, if you will. But he ultimately, they plotted against him, and he ran away. Ended up in Midian as a, in the language of today, a political refugee. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala facilitated his path. In less than one day, he did something good by providing water to the herd of the two young women. Obviously, they told their father, and he sent for him to reward him. He was without any support at that moment, except that he resorted to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in his dua, رَبِّ إِنِّي لِمَا أَنزَلْتَ إِلَيَّ مِنْ خَيْرٍ فَقِيرٌ. And by the end of the day, he ended up getting married, house, job, he was comforted. He was assured that he was secure. That the at any rate, at the end of the term, 8 years or 10 years on his way back, Allah Subhanahu wa Taala directs him to the fire, to the holy valley, and there, Sayyidina Musa salam becomes aware that Allah Subhanahu wa Taala spoke to him. He becomes aware that now he is a prophet. And not only this, it's very important for us to remember that it is during this encounter with Allah Subhanahu wa Taala, the burning bush story, he saw the signs, the miracles, Sayyidina Musa salam. And these miracles, whenever they take place, they take place at the hand of the Prophet, but they are not it is not because of their own personal powers. It is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala who is omnipotent, and He permitted them to perform whatever miracle. This is very important because this assures Sayyidina Musa salam, though he's still in verse, for example, verses 12 to 14, he reflected his own fear because of that incident in which he killed the Egyptian. So he was afraid that he will kill him. He was worried that he would not be able to convey the message, and he asked Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make Sayyidina Harun alayhi salam a prophet and to send him with him to support him. And he was worried about being rendered the lie, which basically all prophets suffered from this. But still, he knew that he could perform these miracles that he saw on his way back from Midian. So he tried. Already, there's some experience with that. This is very important. Now, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala assured him, and he assured Sayyidina Harun alayhi salam that he is with them, and the message was go to the Pharaoh, convey the message. And they demanded that the Pharaoh would send with them the children of Israel. Practically, why? Because it's bondage. It was almost like a labor camp or something like that. And we see it in the narrative immediately. The response of the Pharaoh, once he heard basically the Sayyidina Musa asking him to set free the children of Israel. And here we have when in Tafsir Ibn Kathir, when you talk about an أرسل معنا بني Israel, send with us, with Musa and Harun alayhi salam, send the children of Israel. The verse, the description or the interpretation, the comment here in Arabic, set them free. أي أطلقهم من آثارك وقبضتك وقهرك وتعذيبك. Set them free from your imprisonment, from your bondage, from your fist, from your tyranny, from your torture. For they are servants, they are the believers, the servants of God. فإنهم عباد الله المؤمنون. And they are His sincere party. وحزبه المخلصون. Okay. Why this is important? Because the children of Israel is not an ethnicity. It was a community of faithful. فإنهم عباد الله المؤمنون. And this is not to be like a blanket statement that is fit for every time and space. Whoever claims to be uh, coming from that lineage, it doesn't make much difference. Some of those people are known atheists. Uh, Literally. So, but now for them, it's the cultural, it's the peoplehood, the with the specific exceptionalism, um, and that exceptionalism that erroneously is, is highlights that lineage from Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salam, then through Ishaq and through Yaqub, Jacob, Israel, who is really Israel, the 12, then the 12 tribes. It should be, it has been, it should be always a matter of faith and, of course, practice. Um, when I say that even atheists of them manage to still create some sense of exceptionalism, there is a revisionist historian whose name is Benny Morris. He uh, he wrote the problems that he is fully aware of the massacres that took place in 1948. So he wrote about them. So he's very aware of what the Zionists did. These Zionist terrorist gangs. Uh, they committed massacres in different parts of Palestine, in near Haifa, in Jerusalem, in Deir Yassin. At any rate, I met him once, and I told him, "You are atheist. How do you justify?" So by saying, of course, people should understand. Once we say you are atheist, it means that he does not believe in the existence of God, and therefore there is no promised land. How do you justify the Zionist project? He said, "Look at how many Jews have won the Nobel Prize." And this answer is very racist to the core. The justification here is that we are smarter than you and we are entitled to the best, let's say, piece of land, or to this land, to the Holy Land, to Palestine. So one should remember that when you talk about the children of Israel, because once they have sinned later on the way out of Egypt, uh, after splitting the sea, after they were saved, soon they have sinned more than once, major sins really, and they were punished to dwell in the desert for 40 years. So it was not like go ahead and do whatever you want because of this lineage. No, and ultimately even the presence in the Holy Land in Palestine, they are sojourning in their own theological narrative. It's a sojourn. It's temporary, really, and it's conditional. It's conditional. So they did go to the Musa alayhi salam and Harun alayhi salam. They went to the Pharaoh and they demanded that he let the children of Israel to live with them. And here we have, I would say, probably four stages in the reply of the Pharaoh, of Pharaoh, mentioning uh, the favors that the Pharaoh bestowed on Sayyidina Musa alayhi salam, Prophet Moses. Then moving to, we might say, intimidation or uh, personal attack and direct threat. So the first is the emotional, emotional blackmail. We can say appealing to, trying to appeal to the days in which that I'm sure that Sayyidina Musa salam would remember vividly. And the first thing, this is what the first thing was. قال ألم نربك فينا وليدا ولبثت فينا من عمرك سنين. This is the first one. So he reminded him that as a child, as a baby, really, he was raised in the house of the Pharaoh. Did we not raise you among us as a child, and you stayed several years of your life in our care? That's the first, uh, let's say, argument. Second one, وفعلت فعلتك التي فعلت وأنت من الكافرين. Then you did what you did. This is, the killing the Egyptian, being utterly ungrateful. So it's different now because we might say it entails some level of intimidation. And this is why the response of Sayyidina Musa alayhi salam, قال فعلتها إذا وأنا من الضالين. I did it then, lacking guidance. This is before the Sayyidina Musa alayhi salam being a prophet, which entails some level of ignorance, one might say. And he said that he ran away because he was afraid. So I fled from you when I feared you. Then my Lord granted me wisdom and made me one of the messengers. ففررت منكم لما خفتكم فوهب لي ربي حكما وجعلني من المرسلين. And now something remarkable in the argument of Sayyidina Musa alayhi salam. وتلك نعمة تمنها علي أن عبدت بني إسرائيل. How can that be a favor? Which remind me, when it was only because you have enslaved the children of Israel. So you make it like, for example, for us who are still suffering from direct colonialism, like in Palestine. Sometimes there are certain rights that are granted. Sometimes there are services, okay? But there's structural violence other than the violence on the ground. There's structural discrimination. You are not on the same level. And we have listened to those Jewish extremists during last Monday, during the every year during this time, during May, when the Zionists celebrate uh, the occupation. From our perspective, of course, it's the occupation of Jerusalem, and it's basically like hooligans. They did hit elderly, they hit women in the old city. They hit young men, they hit um, store owners, In fact, on my way out of from Al-Aqsa Mosque that Monday after the noon prayer, it was orchestrated. It was obviously on my way in. There were a couple of hundred settlers uh, immediately between Lions Gate and the gate, the Bab al-Aswat leading to Al-Aqsa Mosque. And literally, I just went through. On the way out, they were lining both sides of Lions Gate. Most people were, without most people were intimidated, and rather than going through Lions Gate, they opted to go, which is going east, and it's really within meters, really. They opted to go to Herod's Gate, so a couple of hundred meters to the north. It's the it's not there. It's not the gate that they go through, but they were intimidated when they saw the settlers. I decided to go through Lion's Gate, to leave through Lion's Gate, and I was kicked, and they threw water on me. Uh, so it's the name itself does not make much difference. Like in every community, you'll find in every single community in the world. You talk about Jews, you talk about Christians, you talk about Muslims, you talk about Hindus, you talk about Buddhists, you talk about atheists. There are those who pickpocket, there are those who are criminals, there are those who are gangsters, there are drug dealers, there are corrupt politicians, etc. But it's the problem is that structurally the project itself, the colonial project, is aims at ethnic cleansing, and we can see the genocidal war in Gaza. So Sayyidina Musa responded to the Pharaoh, you have been good to me, but you have been bad to my people. Then the narrative shifts, and now the Pharaoh asks about the nature of who is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In fact, the way he asked what rather than who. He said, قال فرعون وما رب العالمين. The Pharaoh asked, and what is the Lord of all worlds? Because he does not recognize, let's remember, he does not recognize anyone other than himself being God. And hence is this question. And Sayyidina Musa responded by saying he's the Lord of the heavens and the earth and everything in between. Everything in between, including everything in Egypt. If only you had sure faith. قال رب السماوات والأرض وما بينهما إن كنتم موقنين. So the Pharaoh now engaged his entourage, his court. So he said to those around him, did you hear what he said? Did you hear what, of course, what he said, what Musa said? And Sayyidina Musa added at this moment, just simply to reinforce the statement, قال ربكم ورب آبائكم الأولين, so that they, just in case, so it's not that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the Lord of everything in the universe except people, no, including themselves. He is your Lord and the Lord of your forefathers. Now the Pharaoh resorts to personal attacks on ad hominem, and this has been used even against Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The word majnun. قال إن رسولكم الذي أرسل إليكم لمجنون. So the Pharaoh, of course, mockingly said, your messenger who has been sent to you must be insane, crazy, nuts. Prophet Moses now for the third time reinforces the idea of قال رب المشرق والمغرب وما بينهما إن كنتم تعقلون. He is the Lord of the East and the West and everything in between. If only you had any sense. All that it takes is simply be, as we say, present, be objective, just simply remove the cultural package that you have and see things for what they are. The Pharaoh now uses direct threat. If you take any other god besides me, I will certainly have you imprisoned. قال إن اتخذت إلها غيري لأجعلنك من المسجونين. So you challenge the status quo and you could be threatened. In this case here with prison plus torture, prison plus torture plus ultimately execution or being killed under torture. If you challenge the status quo, if you challenge the absolute authority of someone in office, you might land in jail. Unfortunately, there are Muslim scholars who ended up in jail for saying something beautiful, simply before, just like including in what they have written, including a prayer, a supplication that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will reconcile the Muslims, the Muslim readers, the Muslim Ummah. I often pray. Some people might say, why do you? Or I often pray, I make this supplication. As I said, and again, one more time. I often pray, asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to guide those in office. وَلَا تُأْمُرِنَا اللهم وفق ولاة أمور المسلمين لما تحب وترضى. And we know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves to see the Muslims united for their own good and for the good of humanity at large. Sometimes the relationship with some of these countries, the relationship with the non-Muslims is better than the relationship with Muslim countries. They should iron their differences. They should unite. At this stage, after the Pharaoh threatened Sayyidina Musa alayhi salam, here Sayyidina Musa alayhi salam proposes to bring clear proof and the Pharaoh said, okay, bring it on, show me what you have. And at this moment, of course, he showed two signs. He threw down his staff, and behold, it became a real snake. And he drew his hand out of his collar, and it was shining white for all to see. Now again, in the first personal attack, he said he is crazy, Majnun. Now he said he is a skilled magician. A change in the narrative. I think with this notion of talking about the new line that the Pharaoh used, inshallah, I think it's appropriate to address this part in the next session, because it's the story of the rallying his own magicians and against Sayyidina Musa alayhi salam is a long story, relatively speaking, and inshallah we'll be able to do this in the next session. Until then, subhanakallah wa bihamdik, ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah wa barakatuh.